This video is going to be a look at something that Ravens fans have been discussing for a long time. It's called complementary football. Now, complementary football can mean having balanced offensive plays, run, pass plays from the same formation, balanced run pass in terms of uh, percentages on 1st and 10 or maybe 2nd and 5, whatever. But it not only means being able to run and pass from the same formation, from the same set. For example, this formation you see here is one that I would call twin wing. Twin being the two receivers to the top side. The offense is right, the defense is left. And then wing being tight end wing. Sometimes it's a tight end and a receiver who's lined up there. We'll still call it twin wing. But complementary football to me actually goes more than just being able to run and pass out of the same formation or run multiple plays from the same formation. It also is about using complementary players, your main players for the Steelers, Freiermuth, Najee Harris, George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, obviously the quarterback. But being able to find a way to use complementary players and get some production out of them as well. Now, having said that, to be honest with you, this formation is not as balanced as I would have perceived. I have 8 plays out of twin wing in the Ravens Steelers game from week 17, and all 8 of them for the Steelers are run plays, which kind of even speaks a little more to the Ravens' defensive inability to adjust. Because it's like, how many times in a row does a team need to line up in a formation and run the ball before you kind of get out of a particular look that's giving up yards to either jet sweep or split zone? Is that number 4 times in a row? 5 run plays in a row? 6? We're talking about 8 run plays in a row, not 8 consecutive plays, but 8 consecutive times of lining up in twin wing. That's where, if you're not dealing with formations in a way that basically is memorization as a player, then you're doing your team a disservice. And in my opinion, the Steelers deserve credit for playing complementary football. And simultaneous to that, the Ravens deserve 0 or negative credit for not being able to recognize the formation, basically the situation in which the Steelers were consistently running the football. All right, so this is all from the first drive. That first play was twin wing, and it was 2 tight ends down here, and then 2 receivers to the top side. So 12 personnel. This one is different. This one's 21 personnel. You've got 2 running backs, in this case Harris and Warren, and then you've got a tight end and a receiver down here. This receiver apparently does a pretty good job blocking, and that's why they were running the jet sweep to him. So it's first drive. It's a 2nd and 9, as you can see, from just past midfield, and it's a 31-yard gain on a jet sweep by Warren. Now, I will tell you that the jet sweep is something that Matt Canada has run, consistently, often. It's an element of his offense that I think a lot of Steelers fans have complained about, and I could be wrong there. If you're a Steelers fan, you've listened this far, let me know. But it's a good concept, all right? Even if you don't want it to be seen in the NFL, it's a good concept. You're kind of hiding the football by handing it off to this guy in motion. The Ravens are in what appears to be a 5-1 nickel because you've got 2 edge players, 3 interior linemen. Roquan Smith is the only inside linebacker. He's the Mike on the field. So essentially, I would call it a 5-1. Some people call it a 3-3, whatever. It's 5 guys on the line of scrimmage and then an inside linebacker. Simultaneous to that, the nickel, Kyle Hamilton, appears to be rolled up in Freiermuth's face. No one is forcing the football inside for the Ravens. Freiermuth is doing a nice job reaching Bowser. In my opinion, is pretty poor technique by the Ravens edge players against this formation, against the jet sweep play particularly. I don't know if I give you the end zone angle of this one, but check out the alignment. Bowser is outflanking the tight end. He's certainly lined up outside of him, meaning he's further toward the sideline. He's closer to the sideline than Freiermuth is. Nonetheless, Freiermuth is able to reach him because Bowser's looking in the backfield, in my opinion. It's not his job to do that. He's not reading his key properly, if you ask me. And actually, he's just not reading his key at all. And I don't think Justin Houston is either on a later jet sweep that you'll see from the end zone angle. The jet sweep game, this is the same play from the end zone angle, by the way, so you'll get a nice look at this 5-1. Here's your 5 down linemen or 3 down linemen and 2 outside backers. And then your lone or only inside linebacker, in this case, the Mike Roquan Smith. Kyle Hamilton's going to fall down, I think, over Marlon Humphrey's foot. You can see numbers-wise, the Ravens should be fine. It's 4-on-3. But the Steelers have done a nice job, again, of hiding the football. As there is this mesh between the quarterback and the guy in motion, you have the running back, going opposite for presumably like inside zone back against it. And that is where we start to discuss complementary football. You've seen this formation twice. The first one was inside zone to Harris. The second one is a jet sweep to Warren. He's a complementary player. He's not one of their main offensive weapons, but he's a guy they can get some production out of with a certain scheme, and this was one of them. All right, same personnel grouping, 21. This is now the 5th possession, so it's the Steelers' first possession of the second half. And so they've gone 4 possessions, well, really 3. Their 4th possession was a kneel down at the end of the second quarter. So they've gone 4 possessions without showing this twin wing formation. It's a pretty poor job, to be honest with you, by at least 2 guys here, if not 3. Definitely Queen and Washington, and possibly Roquan Smith. Broderick Washington gets scooped by a guy who's lined up further in this direction. So scooped means that this tackle is going to get to the inside and cut off Broderick Washington. I think Broderick Washington is getting upfield a little too much and not responding to his key, which is the guard. Patrick Queen also is getting pulled to the right by the motion. Credit the Steelers for that, because again, you have motion by Warren, a guy who gained 31 yards earlier in the game. So that's causing Queen to widen up. Whether we think he should be doing that or not is up to, each of our own individual opinions. But then the complementary play to that, off that, is the run, which is inside zone in this case, away from that motion. Matabike is not doing a bad job turning the ball inside. Roquan Smith not playing downhill at all. Patrick Queen playing side to side. The left guard doing a great job, if you ask me, working his way up to Roquan Smith. I have it down as a 5-yard gain. It looks like a whole hell of a lot more than 5 yards to me. It looks like about 9 or 10, maybe more. Nice play by the Steelers, using the jet motion as play number 1, or foundational element number 1, and then the inside zone off of it. Really, I got bad news for some people that don't really enjoy hearing the name of this offense. This is just Wing T 101, is really all it is. I don't know Matt Canada's background overall, if he was a Wing T guy a long time ago, but his guys are certainly executing this in a similar fashion, with the jet sweep being the horizontal threat, the threat towards the sideline, and then the inside zone back against it being the threat to the opposite direction. Same play, all 22 angles, so we'll see exactly how many yards it was. Ball was originated at the negative 25, so it looks like about a 15-yard gain, actually. Ravens got this nickel safety, Kyle Hamilton, who's hanging out on the motion away. And they're doing a nice job, of stepping to everyone to the play side. And the backside guard, like I showed you from the all-22 angle, here's his helmet. He's going to work up to Roquan Smith. He can do that because the backside tackle is able to scoop Broderick Washington, who plays it pretty poorly. And then Patrick Queen is totally unblocked. He's in conflict by the jet motion. So while this is not a balanced run-pass formation in terms of just looking at the overall game, there is a threat horizontally to one side, which you can see the Ravens kind of overreacting to, with Queen moving to one side on the motion, and then also Marcus Williams spinning down, so that when this thing does bust through here on the first level, there is no Ravens player aligned in this area to support as a safety. The safety has rolled back to being a free safety. In this case, it's Chuck Clark. Great play. All right, I don't have all of this play for whatever reason. When I downloaded it, it gets cut off. But you can see that there is jet motion. This time it's by George Pickens. And then there's a run back against the grain of the motion. Essentially, it's the same play I just showed you, except a mirror image of it. Pickens motion, and then Harris the give. It ends up being a 5-yard gain to the weak side. Ravens have a similar reaction to it. Safety coming downhill. Marcus Williams isn't spinning up high into the boundary. Kyle Hamilton again, off off the edge, almost makes a play. Oop, my bad. Almost makes the play. I'm going to try to pause it there. Almost makes the play as a tackle in the backfield. Again, I've got the this play got cut off for some reason on download, so I don't have the remainder of the play. My apologies. All right, that was the fifth possession, the opening possession of the third quarter. The Steelers were able to get a field goal. Again, they hadn't used this formation and this threat of the jet sweep since the first drive of the game. Second and third drive, they didn't use it at all. The fourth drive was a kneel down, come out opening possession of the third quarter, and they used it 3 times on that possession. We're now the sixth possession, the next possession. It's 13-6. The Steelers are going to get a field goal to cut this lead to 13-9. And this is an example of the same exact play. Jet motion going to the strong side where you have 2 tight ends in this case, and then it's split zone. So you're going to get this cross action with the tight end, the outside tight end, going back against the grain of the guy in motion. So here's the guy in motion. We know he came from over in this area. And then the tight end is coming back over here to presumably kick out the edge rusher or the outside linebacker, in this case, JPP. JPP ends up wrong arming it, and Najee Harris bounces it. It's a pretty poor job of coordination up front by the Ravens, meaning if you're going to get a wrong arm here going underneath of this kick out block by the tight end, okay, hopefully those lines are drawn in a way that makes sense, then somebody at the second level for the Ravens has to be folding over the top, or a safety has to be able to come down and fill. If you're going to make it spill, someone has to fit outside of it. As you can see, there's no coordination from the Ravens in terms of their inside linebacker play. Neither Patrick Queen nor the safety is in a position to fold over the top. Ravens are still, if you ask me, kind of over-adjusting to the jet sweep. Queen gets cut off. Roquan Smith is the guy who ends up making the tackle after a 9-yard gain. Marcus Williams is there, but just too late. Great play by the Steelers. Like I said, 6th possession. That was a 1st and 10 from the -5, got them away from their own end zone on a 9-yard gain. The third quarter ended on the very next play, a very short run by Najee Harris. We're now 3 plays into the fourth quarter. This is a 2nd and 4 from the -49. This is again Warren on the sweep. Look at how clean the handoff is. And how you have, again, Harris going against the grain of the motion. And Houston this time is the edge defender who's getting reached. You end up with a 3-on-3 over here, I believe, which sounds okay. But the problem is your third defender, Justin Houston, has allowed himself to get reached. No response to a key at all here. No response to the tight end, whether he's reading shoulder, helmet, feet, whatever he's reading. You certainly have everything for the tight ends moving in this direction, and Justin Houston is not reacting to it at all, not whatsoever. He's just basically allowing himself to get reached, so Freiermuth moves on to the next guy. Freiermuth and the little receiver whose name that I forget are able to get out to 2 DBs. You got inside-out pursuit by Queen. Ravens really had no clue how to defend this jet sweep with the complementary run plays off of it. And which is kind of crazy because there's no pass plays that the Steelers shown out of it. If you're a Steelers fan or anyone who watches the film, seriously, let me know if the Steelers actually do throw much out of this formation. I got them 8 for 8 run pass out of this formation in this Week 17 game. Pretty interesting that the Ravens were unable to do anything with it. It's just your classic wing tee play out of red-blue formation is all it is. Except they're not pulling a guard. All right, like I said, that's 6th possession. The score is 13-6 Ravens at this point. All 22 angles, same play. You can see Houston getting, sucked inside there in terms of, Houston ends up stepping down in this direction while the jet sweep is going this way. And his key, what I think should be his key to tight end, are stepping outside. He wouldn't be in a wide 9 technique and reading this offensive tackle. At least he shouldn't be, if you ask me. Especially not on a 2nd and 4, which is a clear rundown, and this formation is a clear run formation. It's almost like nobody for the Ravens is communicating that these are run formations. These are formations that are a little bit more, heavy, run heavy. It might look like the Ravens have enough guys there to stop it. They don't. All three of those guys are behind the play. The only guy who is in position by alignment to help stop the play is Justin Houston. All right, a little bit later in the drive, I think 4 plays later, 1st and 10 from the 15-yard line. This is a 12 personnel version of twin wing. And it's a split zone that the Ravens defend pretty well. I think 91, I can't remember his name, does a pretty good job. And also Brent Urban. So you got the jet motion here. And now this is similar to the two split zone plays that I showed you. The H-back tight end is going to come across here to kick out. And Warren is supposed to go underneath of that kick out. Urban has wrong-armed it significantly and gone underneath. So the H-back just passes him up. For some reason, loops around. Really poor job of identification by the H-back on who he's supposed to kick out. He's going out here in space. Normally it would be your edge guy, which is Tyus Bowser. But in this case, the Ravens are playing their base defense. This is an outside linebacker. This is an outside linebacker. There's 2 inside linebackers and corner, safety, corner. So the Ravens are in their base 3-4, even though Bowser's walked out like a 4-3 will linebacker. H-back does a pretty poor job, if you ask me, of understanding who he should kick out. Urban is left unblocked. Both Ravens D tackles are there to prevent a big gain. It ends up being a 2-yard gain. That is 6 possession, like I said. The Steelers were able to cut it to 13-9 there. All right, so this is 7th possession. This is a really neat play. This is still 12 personnel. So the Ravens are, again, 2 outside linebackers, 2 inside linebackers, corner, safety, corner. So they're in their base 3-4 again. And this is a little bit different. This is not split zone. This is like an F counter play, kind of, where the H-back is because the Ravens have, it's a nice adjustment by the Steelers, because the Ravens have wrong-armed multiple times, and you can see Brent Urban stepping down violently again. So this is Brent Urban. Everyone for the Steelers is going to be stepping in this direction. All right, so Urban, what he's going to do is wrong-arm it. He's going to try to come down the line and get inside of this kick-out block. Well, it's not a kick-out block this time. This time, the Steelers are looping him around. This is not an adjustment made during the play. You can tell by the steps and the way the ball was handed off to Warren. So credit the Steelers coaches for adjusting, for having the ability to adjust. The Ravens really showed none, if you ask me. They've stacked Tyus Bowser here and stepped Brett Urban down. Again, someone has to be stepping down if you're going to wrong arm, and then someone has to be ready to scrape over the top. Just a natural gap exchange. The other way you could do this is, run the edge player upfield, which is extremely undisciplined, and then, play the inside linebacker or outside linebacker who's, walked back as a will, run him down the line of scrimmage trying to attack it off the backside of this tackle's block. Ravens really do neither. Well, they do the wrong arm with Urban, but Bowser doesn't stay disciplined enough. I think the Ravens edge players played quite poorly, had a really poor understanding of this formation. Again, this is 7th possession, and we're talking about 8 total plays out of this formation, but it's a high expectation level for defense in the NFL. If you're not memorizing formations, like if someone gives you a 100% or even an 80% formation, meaning it's 80% run or it's 100% run, you're not going to memorize and take that information and apply it on the field. That's a pretty low standard, if you ask me. That'd be a low standard for the types of coaches and players that I've been around, let alone at the NFL level. I think this is a pretty poor job by the Ravens coaches. I think it's a pretty poor job by the Ravens players if they were prepared. Now, the only reason the Steelers didn't run this, I think the Ravens did actually force a punt on this possession. The only reason the Steelers didn't run twin wing and some of these either jet sweep or the split zone or the inside zone, or in this case, like your F counter wrap. Only reason they didn't run it on their 8th possession is because they were in passing mode, because it was about 4 minutes left in the game, and they really didn't have time to stay in this offense. I think it's a nice job by the Steelers of playing complementary football, using some of their complementary players. In this case, Jaylen Warren, Najee Harris, doing a nice job of using this guy as a blocker out of 11 personnel or 12 personnel in some cases, and really manipulating the Ravens with a 3-play series and no complementary pass plays that I've noticed, at least in this game, to really offset or balance out that formation. I'm not sure if there are pass plays. I'm sure that there are pass plays in this formation. We didn't see them against the Ravens because everything else was so successful. The jet sweep, the inside zone, and the split zone were hitting the Ravens so big. Let me know what you guys think of this video. This was a longer video than I intended it to be, but it's just a look at a formation and a way that teams, in this case the Steelers, can be somewhat complementary, because I really don't think they're really balanced with the absence of any pass play at all, at least shown in this game. But a way that teams can be complementary in terms of threatening both sides of the field and using some of their backups or supplementary players to take some of the pressure off of Najee Harris, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, and even Kenny Pickett. Appreciate you guys' time. Let me know what you think of the video in the comment section.